I am ranking Luffy's every forms, from strongest form to the most aura-farming form. First coming up with Water Luffy. This is a temporary form that he takes during the Alabasta arc when he's fighting Crocodile, a Logia-type devil fruit user with the sand fruit. Since Crocodile's body turns into sand, he realizes that regular attacks won't work on him. But then he figures out that water is the key, because when sand gets wet, it clumps together and can't disperse. So, we all know Luffy. He comes up with the dumbest, yet somehow genius strategy. He chugs a ton of water and turns himself into a Water Luffy. It let him land some hits, but Crocodile still had the upper hand with his dehydration powers. Eventually, he had to step it up by using his own blood to counter Crocodile's abilities, leading to that legendary final battle. This was one of the first times we saw Luffy get really creative with fighting Devil Fruit users, proving he's not just a rubberhead, he's got some serious battle IQ. As of ranking, I would like to put this form in B tier because it's fun, goofy, and it's clever, but it's not a true power-up. He has way better transformations that boost his abilities instead of just giving him a one-time advantage in a very specific fight. Now, why not let's talk about absolute power-up form of Luffy, that is, Gear Second. Luffy first unleashes Gear Second in Enies lobby against Blueno, and the moment is straight-up legendary. Blueno, who was flexing his Rokushiki techniques, gets absolutely wrecked. He moves so fast that he just disappears and reappears behind him. This was the first time we saw Luffy level up and dominate an opponent with pure technique rather than just brute force. He figured out that by pumping his blood faster, he could increase his speed and strength dramatically. He does this by using his rubbery body to manually accelerate his blood circulation. This makes him faster, stronger, and way more dangerous in a fight. It's like giving himself a constant adrenaline rush. His body also turns slightly pink, and steam starts coming off him due to the insane increase in heat and energy. All these power-ups, but he had to trade it with his lifespan. So as of ranking, it's easily A tier. Not only it made him one of the fastest in One Piece at that time, it is classic and one of the favorite of mine. While talking about favorite, let's talk about my one of the least favorite, Gear Third Luffy. Luffy bites into his thumb and blows air directly into his bones. This air spreads through his body, expanding his limbs to gigantic proportions. Once his arm or leg is huge, he swings it like a wrecking ball for an insanely strong attack. It's perfect for breaking defenses and dealing devastating, high-impact blows that regular punches couldn't. After the time skip, he can also coat it with haki for even stronger attacks. Despite its raw power, it lacks speed, making it less effective against agile opponents. At pre-time skip, it also had a major drawback. He would shrink into a tiny, powerless version of himself for a short time. By the way, that's his another form. As of ranking, I am putting Gear Third Luffy on B tier, because it is a powerhouse, but not Luffy's best form, and Chibi Luffy on B tier simultaneously. Because it might be cute, I agree. But just above B tier deserves another form of Luffy, that is Nightmare Luffy. It happened when the shadow absorption process that was done by the Rolling Pirate was used on Luffy. They shoved 100 shadows into his body, giving him an insane power-up for a limited time. Since Moria's shadow fruit lets him control shadows, this was a way for Luffy to fight on even ground with oars. Nightmare Luffy's biggest strength is his sheer power boost. He becomes insanely strong, fast, and durable, capable of overwhelming even Oars and Gecko Moria with ease. He also temporarily gains swordsmanship skills and enhanced battle instincts. However, his biggest weakness is that the form is completely temporary and relies on external help. Once the shadows leave, he reverts back to normal, meaning it's not a form he can activate at will. Additionally, while he dominates in raw strength, he doesn't have the advanced techniques or battle experience that come with his later power-ups like Gear 4 or Gear 5. Still, for the short time it lasts, it is one of his most fearsome transformations. Nightmare Luffy is a crazy strong but temporary transformation. If he could use this form at will, it might be S tier, but since it's a one-time gimmick, A tier feels right. Well, this form might give competition to Nightmare Luffy. Bounce Man Luffy. Bounce Man is Luffy's first Gear 4 transformation, introduced during his fight with Doflamingo in Dressrosa. Unlike Gear 3, where he inflates his bones, here Luffy inflates his muscles, making his body massively bulked up and springy. His entire form is coated in armament haki, giving him both an offensive and defensive boost. The most iconic thing about this form is how it constantly moves. Luffy literally bounces off the ground and even the air, making him unpredictable and incredibly fast. A single punch from this form can send opponents flying like cannonballs. However, since it relies heavily on haki, it burns through Luffy's energy quickly, meaning he can't sustain it for long. Also, while his bouncing movement makes him agile, it can sometimes be difficult to control, limiting his precision. Against someone like Doflamingo, this form was overwhelming. But as Luffy faced stronger enemies like Kaido, Bounce Man started to show its limits. I'd rank it A tier, a game changer in its time, but not quite at the peak of Luffy's transformations. Unlike Bounce Man, which focuses on raw power and tankiness, Snake Man trades defense for insane speed and unpredictable attacks. Luffy's body becomes leaner, allowing him to move at incredible speeds while delivering python punches. Attacks that don't just fly straight, but can change direction mid-air to track his opponent. As the fight goes on, his attacks become even faster, making it nearly impossible for enemies to dodge. Snake Man was the key to defeating Katakuri, as it countered Katakuri's future sight observation haki with sheer unpredictable speed. Like all Gear 4 forms, Snake Man burns through haki and energy rapidly. If Luffy can't win fast, he risks exhausting himself and becoming vulnerable. It is best against fast or evasive enemies, but is less effective against those who can soak up damage and counterattack, like Kaido. As of ranking, I am putting it on A tier because it lacks defense and is not strong enough to defeat tank-like opponents. Talking about tank, let's not forget about actual form called Tankman Luffy. Luffy becomes massive, like ridiculously huge. This happens because he overeats and bloats his body to an extreme level, making him extra durable and giving his attacks more force. It's almost like a sumo wrestler version of Gear 4. He used this form against Cracker, one of the sweet commander of Big Mom pirates. In battle, his body inflates massively because he eats a ridiculous amount of Cracker's biscuit soldiers. When Cracker tries to attack, Luffy absorbs the hit like a sponge and counters with a move called Cannonball, which basically yeets Cracker out of Whole Cake Island with insane force. It worked because Cracker's biscuit soldiers gave Luffy an unlimited food supply to maintain the form. Plus, Cracker relied on fast sword attacks, which were useless against Luffy's giant, squishy body. As of ranking, I am putting this form in B rank, and you would ask me, why? I know it's super strong, but Tankman is a one-time gimmick form that was hilarious and effective against Cracker, but probably wouldn't work against most other enemies. Later in this video, I will explain about Luffy's strongest form, that's even stronger than Gear 5. Talking about Gear 5, let's talk about Giant Luffy, aka Gear 5 Luffy. In this special mode, he takes that ability to the next level by gigantically inflating himself, while keeping all the crazy elasticity of Gear 5. Unlike Gear 3, where he only inflates specific body parts, Giant Luffy enlarges his entire body. Since his body is still rubber, even when Kaido strikes him, Luffy bounces back like he's in a slapstick cartoon. This is one of Luffy's strongest forms to date, no doubt. Unlike previous giant form like Gear 3, Giant Luffy doesn't lose speed. It's one of the most fun, overpowered, and broken abilities he's got, and it completely overwhelmed Kaido in the final fight of Wano. Giant Luffy is peak One Piece ridiculousness at its best. Luffy literally turns into a massive, rubbery god and fights like he's in an old-school cartoon. It's powerful, absurd, and 100% worthy of an S-tier ranking. What's more deserving for S-tier is Afro Luffy. It is literally just Luffy wearing an afro wig, but somehow it gives him a massive confidence boost and, according to Usopp, the power of a true warrior. While it doesn't grant him any supernatural abilities, it does something arguably even better. It makes Luffy fight with 1000% more style and determination, or we can say whenever he wears that afro, his aura increases. Even though Foxy was using dirty tricks like his slow beam, Afro Luffy stays standing and delivers the knockout punch. Honestly, I would rank this form B tier, right alongside Water Luffy. It's not an actual power-up, but it's an iconic form that somehow made Luffy fight harder. If we ranked it purely based on energy, confidence, and style, it's easily S tier. Afro Luffy is proof that sometimes all you need is a little extra swagger to win a fight. Peak comedy, peak determination, and peak Luffy. If you also want to watch peak videos like this, hit the subscribe button now and watch this video where I have explained extremely shocking betrayals in One Piece.